Fanning Painter is going to light the chalice. We'll also be speaking this morning. At times, our own light goes out and is rekindled by a spark from another person. Each of us has cause to think with deep gratitude of those who have lighted the flame within us.
The leading spirit of life from the back of the room. You can face Maureen. Please rise and body your spirit as we sing Spirit of Life. Noreen will be offering our sign language if you'd like to partake in that. We'll be doing this a cappella this morning, which does sound nice. Spirit of life, come unto me. Sing in my heart all the stirrings of compassion. Blow in the wind, rise in the sea. Move in the hand, giving life the shape of justice. Roots hold me close, wings set me free. Spirit of life, come to me, come to me. Please be seated.
Good morning. I'm Leora Mock, your fellowship administrator, and I'm standing in with announcements as Chayla is away on a fabulous vacation, connecting with friends and folks around Oregon. A warm welcome to those who are joining us by Zoom. If this is your first time, let us know with the virtual visitor form. It'll be in the chat. You can also use that form to sign up for our weekly email called the ACE, and I make that, not Chayla. A couple of other announcements. My pronouns are she and her, and I have a sticker on my name tag. If you would like a sticker to tell us your pronouns, those are available at the visitors table in the front. Youth choir continues. We had one, and then a hiccup, and now we're back in a different format. Every first and third Sunday, Reverend Scott, Amy, and some volunteers will lead a combined youth and children's choir from 11:30 until noon. Next announcement is that there's going to be a men's caucus, and all of the men of UUFCO are invited on Saturday morning, October 15th, from 9 to 10:30 a.m. You may know there are lots of men's groups happening, and this is a chance for everyone who's in a group or wants to be in a group or is just curious about what the men are doing program-wise to get together. Wildcat Wizards is tutoring at Juniper Elementary School, and we need more tutors. The commitment can be small, it can be large, but it really makes a huge difference for children to have a person come in every week to read to them and form a special connection there. Our annual auction to support this fellowship is so soon. There's a kickoff on Friday, October 14th. That will be on Zoom, but if you want to see the Mad Hatter in person, there will be a limited number of spaces available here in the sanctuary. And then the online auction portion begins that evening, again, Friday, October 14th. Auction starts at 8 p.m. and it goes for only one weekend. Like, guys, it's a weekend, not a week. And it ends at 5 p.m. on Sunday, October 16th. At this time, I'd like to invite the children, young people, old people, anyone who likes to sit on the floor or get cozy, we have spaces here in the front and at the koi rug here in the front, as well as some flexible seating in the pods or in the back corner. So you're welcome to change your seating position at any time, but especially during TFAA. And the GCC today, even though Anne is sick and unable to be here with us for a presentation, our GCC, our General Community Collection today, will benefit Planned Parenthood of Columbia Willamette, which serves 7 spots here in Oregon and in Vancouver, Washington. And I think that's it. Blessings on your day from me and Chayla.
Good morning. My name is Amy Brock, and I'm the Director of Religious Exploration for Children and Youth. And this is an exciting day. We have a new month, which comes with a new theme. So last month we talked about belonging, and this month we are talking about courage. Is it not on? Maybe I'll hold it closer. Okay. Yeah, so we're talking about courage this month, and I wonder if anybody up here has any ideas about what courage means. It's a really fun word, courage. Almost sounds like something a lion would say. You have a monster truck that sounds like that? Oh my. Oh, Gunster? Very cool. Yeah. Courage. It's such a fun word. We have all month to learn about what courage is, and I'm so excited to explore it with everyone. And I have a story this morning to share with all of you about courage as well. But before I want to share that with you, I have an announcement that our teenagers have a really cool, courageous opportunity to learn something with us this month. The UUA and UCC has a joint curriculum called Our Whole Lives. And it's a really great program that helps people of all ages learn more about themselves and about how to be in healthy relationship with each other. And we missed that opportunity to explore that during COVID. And so we are so excited to help our teens kind of catch up on that by offering a 3-Saturday intensive coming up later this month with our Whole Lives facilitation team. And so if you have a teen that would be interested in exploring that with us, we have an orientation happening on Zoom today at 4 p.m. And you can find that link in the ACE and in the RE newsletter. And if you attend that orientation, then your teen is eligible to participate in our intensive OWL program this month. So think about that. And if that doesn't work for your schedule and you want to learn more, you want your teen to participate, feel free to reach out to me. So now for our story about courage. Once upon a time, in the country of Japan, there stood an old temple, or a place where people would go to kind of explore, like this place right here. And one day, a teacher at this temple gathered all the young students around him, and he said, "As you can see, I'm kind of old and I'm moving slower, and I need more help to take care of the temple. And so I have an idea. You see, the city is full of people, but instead of asking them for help, I want you all to go out and steal their money when they aren't looking. And that will help us have what we need. But here's the deal. You have to make sure that no one can see you." The students were really surprised because their teachers had taught them that it wasn't nice to take things from people. And they knew that this would kind of be a hard task because in a city that big, somebody would always be watching. But they wanted their teacher to have what he needed, and so off they went. Well, almost everyone went, all except one person. And when the teacher saw that that student didn't go, he asked him why. He asked him why he didn't want to help. "Well, I do want to help," answered the student. "But you said that we could only take things if nobody was watching. And I knew that there was nowhere where I wouldn't be seen because I can always see myself." "Ah," said the teacher, "you are so correct. And you know what? That is what I hoped that you would learn when you went out into the city." And then he said, "We will find the help that we need for our temple. But for now, go and tell your friends to come back because you have learned everything that you needed to know. Wow, what an adventure. I bet it took him so much courage to stay. Yeah. And I'm so excited to explore courage with all of us this month. We're going to learn so many things, but before we go to RE today to explore courage more, we need to say the Children's Covenant. And I'm wondering if you could all say it with me. In this place, I am kind. In this place, I am loving. In this place, I am a friend to the earth and all animals and people. In this place, I am loved. We could form the arch so that we can go this way. That would be awesome. Thank you. And just hum to yourself as we go out.
Know our love is with you always as you go, as you go, as you go. May joy surround you as you go, go in peace. Know our love is with you always as you go, as you go.
As Leora mentioned in the announcements today is the Greater Community Collection. And each month, the UUFCO selects a local partner that shares our values and hopes in the world. This month, we'll be collecting our Greater Community Collection with Planned Parenthood Columbia Willamette. Founded in 1963, Planned Parenthood Columbia Willamette is dedicated to providing expert sexual and reproductive health care to people in Oregon and Southwest Washington. Our Bend Planned Parenthood is the local affiliate. PPCW provides a broad range of sexual and reproductive health care, family planning, and other medical services, trains and educates community members on issues of sexuality, and advocates for the protection of reproductive rights and freedom in Oregon and Southwest Washington. PPCW serves over 73,000 patient visits annually. 80% of their patients are low income, 63% of their patients are between the ages of 18 and 29, 8% of PPCW services are for abortion care. 91% of all patients visit to PPCW are for preventative sexual health care, including birth control, annual exams, screenings for breast and cervical cancer, STD testing and treatment, HIV testing and counseling, and safer sex counseling. Planned Parenthood Columbia Willamette is making a large impact on our community, and today we gather our Greater Community Collection to support their work.
Remember Katie White? She jumped the fence that night, ran away into the stir drank her.
We were just 18. The older girls could be so
Remember Katie
to talk.
You were still in shock, and all I could think to say was everything's gonna be okay. It's gonna be alright. I'm on your side. I'm on your side. What are you gonna do?
I'm scared to even say the truth. This has been the hardest year.
Is it even legal?
I'm trying not to think of things. And will you look at me?
What
Do you need the reasons why? I'm scared to a chrysalis butterfly. This has been the hardest year.
And
Is it even thing to say? I'm trying not to think of names. Will you look at me?
gonna be
Do you need the reasons why?
gonna be
Is a chrysalis butterfly.
and all I can
On
your side
Is
everything's
no one
gonna be
has to know.
it's gonna be alright.
Scars will
I'm on your
show.
I'm
At least that's what I
your
was
side.
Oh, bigger than a baby.
No bigger than a
One has
baby.
oh, bigger than a baby.
No bigger than a baby.
The scars won't
Good
show. Do you think God still sees me? At least coming out of this twilight. I'm not sure. Oh, bigger than a baby.
No bigger
Staring
than a
into
baby.
oh, bigger than a baby.
No bigger than a baby. And all I could
Thing to say. Do you think God still sees me?
was
Coming out of this twilight.
everything's gonna be
I'm not sure
okay.
who I am.
gonna be
Staring
alright.
into it. I'm on your side.
And all I
I'm
could
on
your side. What everything's gonna be okay. It's gonna be alright.
I'm on your side.
I'm on your side.
We now enter a time of sharing our joys and sorrows in our community. At any time, if you're moved, anyone is free to light a candle in one of the trays along each side of the sanctuary during this time. We've got from Carrie Bennett, we have joys and sorrows. A joy that her mom and aunt, who live in Venice, Florida, are well, and their homes are fine. A sorrow for friends of her parents, their house, and so many others that were damaged by the hurricanes. Ben Morgan shares a joy. He's moved into his new remodeled home in Redmond after 9 months. Many thanks to friends Bob and Jenny for help on the way. The Belzer family has a heavy heart this week. Richard Belzer, husband of Barbara and father of Jeff, fell down the stairs and broke his neck this week. We're hopeful surgery goes well and mobility will be regained. We hope you'll join us in sending our thoughts, prayers, well wishes, and all the best being to Rich for a successful recovery. Amy Foster Wexler shared the sadness of their hearts are feeling following the death of 16-year-old Cody Gilchrist in a car accident on Friday the 16th. Cody was a good friend to Marley and to many others, and we're holding family, and friends in our hearts. Jenny McKee asks us to hold her brother, Terry, in our thoughts and prayers. He was diagnosed with ALS this week and will have a feeding tube inserted later this week. And one final one from Marilyn Konitzer. My son-in-law's father, Larry Larson, passed away Friday at Mount Bachelor Senior Living Facility. He was a lifelong teacher.
And one from Zoom, Anna Field shares, my joy is that my husband Norman and daughters Lena and Maya are attending services today in person while I join remotely.
Nice. Thanks, Leora. In good times and in bad, it is good to be with one another in community.
Good morning. My name is Tere Pelaez, and I'm going to be sharing with you some of our church's relationship with the history of reproductive rights. We live now in a reality of the Supreme Court's decision in the US that reversed a 50-year precedent which said that American women had a constitutional right to an abortion. Before abortion was legalized in 1973, people would often turn to faith leaders for help with unintended pregnancies. In 1967, a network of Protestant and Jewish leaders founded the Clergy Consultation Service to provide counseling and referrals to doctors who would perform the procedure. It's estimated the service helped more than 400,000 people access abortions. Unitarian Universalists have long been in the pro-choice camp. It was a UU church in Rochester, New York, that gave Planned Parenthood its first home in the 1950s. It was January 1970 when the women's group of the First Unitarian Church of Dallas Women's Group met to discuss abortion and helped initiate Roe versus Wade. Since 1963, the Unitarian Universalist Association has passed 20 resolutions at General Assembly that include the word abortion. All of them have upheld the right to choose. It has been the consistent witness of our faith for 60 years. Those Unitarian Universalist women in Dallas in the 1970s were joined by a young lawyer named Linda Coffey, who along with her colleague Sarah Weddington was determined to file a lawsuit against the state of Texas over its restrictions to abortion access. As none of the women were pregnant at the time, none could serve as plaintiff. So they helped by submitting a key brief in support of reproductive choice when Coffey and Weddington did go to court with Roe versus Wade, with the Roe versus Wade case. Today, that legacy continues, and there are reminders of it throughout our tradition. In light of Roe versus Wade being overturned, our association president, Susan Frederick Gray, wrote, quote, "This decision manifests the worst fears of those of us who have been working for decades to protect and affirm reproductive rights. The Dobbs versus Jackson women's health decision does not alter Unitarian Universalist commitment to reproductive justice. The overwhelming majority of Unitarian Universalists support keeping abortion legal in all or most cases. This is rooted in our principles and our core religious beliefs that affirm gender equity. This anti-choice decision by the Supreme Court infringes on our deeply held religious beliefs. Access to abortion and the right to choose is an issue of gender equality, bodily autonomy, and religious liberty, all of which are long-held Unitarian Universalist religious teachings. Unitarian Universalists are committed to reproductive justice, a framework created by Black women in the 1980s and 1990s, which affirms the human right to have children, not to have children, to parent the children one has in healthy environments, to safeguard bodily autonomy, and to express one's sexuality freely. The UU faith has a long history of collaborating in this movement and advocating for safe, legal, accessible abortion care. Our faith calls us to advocate on behalf of all those who need ready access to safe, legal abortion whenever and wherever they need it. We will not rest until that reality is true across the country. I urge lawmakers, elected officials, and leaders in public life across the country to take action for gender and healthcare equity for all." End quote. This is the history and present reality of our freedom-seeking religious tradition. Unitarian Universalism has long been in the front lines of the fight for women and bodily autonomy. We will remain on those front lines for the years to come, aware of how this issue affects women, men, the trans community, and all of our society. May we be heartfelt and dedicated in our efforts. Thank you.
This morning, we're inviting you into a ritual. It's a ritual for reproductive choice created by the Reverend Julia Hamilton at our UU Church in Santa Barbara. There may be stories from your life that surface in unexpected ways. And so we create this space to hold you and to hold your story, whatever it may be, understanding that each of us may have a different relationship to this issue of reproductive justice. If you need support after the service, please don't hesitate to reach out to me or our pastoral care team at any time. Pam and Ellen are two members of that team as well. If you'll just raise your hands as well. Thanks so much.
As we light a series of candles for the different paths we have taken, if you recognize yourself in one of these prayers, I invite you to put your hand over your heart, wherever you are, and know that you are not alone. There is someone else in this gathered community holding their hand over their heart too. We light the first candle for those whose story includes the choice to end a pregnancy. The circumstances vary. The timelines of our lives are diverse. But each and every one is also a beginning, and so we light this candle for all who have aborted a pregnancy or partnered someone in abortion for whatever reason under any circumstance. There was a congregational response. I'll read it once. May the beginnings and endings in our stories be held in unconditional love and acceptance. We light the second candle for those whose story includes the unwanted loss of a pregnancy or a struggle with fertility. The circumstances vary, the timelines of our lives are diverse, but the pain of infertility, miscarriage, and stillbirth are too often held in silence. And so we light this candle for all who have traveled this path of loss for whatever reason, under whatever circumstance. May the beginnings and endings in our stories be held in unconditional love and acceptance. We light the third candle for those whose story includes the choice to give birth. The circumstances vary, the timelines of our lives are diverse, but the choice to bring a new life into the world is a powerful one. And so we light this candle for all who have given birth or partnered in the birth of a child, or those who have adopted a child and birthed by someone else for whatever reason, under whatever circumstance. May the beginnings and endings in our stories be held in unconditional love and acceptance. We light the fourth candle for whose story includes the choice not to conceive or to have children. The circumstances vary, the timelines of our lives are diverse, but the freedom to chart the course of our own reproductive life is sacred. We light this candle for all who have made the decision not to conceive or bear children for whatever reason, under whatever circumstance. May the beginnings and endings in our stories be held in unconditional love and acceptance. We light the fifth candle for those whose story includes a forced choice or no choice at all, or who have encountered violence where there should have been tenderness and care. The circumstances vary, The timelines of our lives are diverse, but not everyone has been in the position to control their own reproductive choices. We light this candle for all who have found themselves unable to exercise their own sacred reproductive freedom for whatever reason, under whatever circumstance. May the beginnings and endings in our stories be held in unconditional love and acceptance. We light the sixth and final candle for those whose reproductive story is still being written. The circumstances vary, the timelines of our lives are diverse, but the future unfolds in surprising and unexpected ways that can both be beautiful and heartbreaking. And so we light this candle for all who are at the threshold, who have agency and choices still to make about their reproductive lives, for whatever reason, under whatever circumstance. May the beginnings and endings in our stories be held in unconditional love and acceptance. May the flames of these candles and the many stories they represent remind us of the fire of commitment we carry inside to ensure that all people have freedom and agency over their reproductive choices, and that reproductive justice is upheld as a fundamental right for this and future generations.
So when asked to reflect on the overturning of Roe v. Wade, I can shake my head in disbelief that I have fewer rights than my mother had when it comes to healthcare and bodily autonomy. But yet I sit in privilege. I live in a state where my access to reproductive health is still accessible to me. There is an entire generation, myself included, who grew up hearing stories of those before who fought for the right to legal and safe abortions. We grew up never knowing our own friends or members of our family who died because of their lack of access. But now those comforts and securities have been ripped away from us. I'm sure the recent overturning has caused a variety of feelings for all. Some generations see their hard work torn. Others might feel disillusioned. There can be fear or guilt over why it was legal for themselves, but not for their children and grandchildren. For me, I sadly saw it coming. Bodily autonomy rights have been picked at for several years now. It started with our trans siblings and has continued to permeate more and more individuals. But this can work in our favor. More individuals feel the impact, so more should feel called to change the situation. This is not just a fight for cisgendered heterosexual women like myself, and I'll define those terms. Cisgendered means that I present as a female and I identify as a female. I am heterosexual, meaning that I prefer and have relationships with men or those of the opposite sex from myself. But this situation affects more than just cisgendered heterosexual women. It's for all people who can get pregnant. I'm hopeful that if I have children one day, they'll have the rights and protections I grew up having, that my mother grew up having, that my grandmother's generation fought to have.
So my name is Dustin Fanning Painter. My pronouns are he, him, his, and I identify as a gay trans individual. So I'm going to talk to you guys about how access to abortion impacts me and my fellow trans and non-binary siblings. So as Jazz just said, a gender identity, I present and live my life as a male. I was born biologically female. I take testosterone for my lovely beard that is finally starting to grow out. And but the thing is, taking testosterone is not birth control. I can still get pregnant. And And testosterone can also cause birth defects. And oftentimes it takes a while before trans men or non-binary individuals who are taking testosterone realize that they are pregnant. There's also an increased risk for ectopic pregnancies. And not much research has been done on the effects of trans individuals and pregnancy. So when gendered language, like referring to abortion access as women's rights, are used, we're leaving myself and several of my trans siblings completely out of this conversation and discussion. We're continuing to marginalize an already vulnerable group of people. And many of the places like Planned Parenthood not only provide access to abortion, but for myself, that's where I get my testosterone and gender affirming care from. And for us, and for many of us, this becomes like an issue of life and death. I'm asking each one of us to start including individuals like myself, non-binary individuals, and other trans people into this discussion around access to abortion by changing our language and including inclusive terms like people who can get pregnant. When a group of people who are directly and deeply impacted this are left out of the discussion, it produces gaps in strategies for care, gaps in understanding the impacts and effects this has for all of us, and it creates gaps in the cohesive power that we have when we rise together to fight for our rights. I'm gonna end with a joke. Do you guys know what happens if I become a dad? I become transparent. Thank you.
Because we know so many of us are affected by this topic and this discussion, we are now going to open the floor for reflections and further discussion as a congregation. I'm going to start though by posing a question to hopefully shape the conversation at first, and then we can let it flow naturally from there. As a congregation, how do we move forward to create a more inclusive space around reproductive health and reproductive issues? What can we do? So Noreen and Scott are going to walk around with the mic. If you would just raise your hand to let them know you have something to contribute, that would be appreciated.
We work and support politicians that support reproductive health.
Maybe ask another question.
Hi. Normalize being a woman who has not had children, for whatever reason that is, so that there is a space that holds people who have chosen to terminate.
Being a man, I sometimes don't feel that I really have a strong agency on this issue because it's so complicated and so much in the sphere of women. However, I would like to say that with my Judeo-Christian upbringing, I do have serious concerns about abortion in the third trimester. And I think our congregation ought to have a discussion to see if there isn't some sort of middle ground on dealing with the abortion issue.
I'm a nurse midwife, so I deliver babies. I work with East Cascade Women's Group. I would be happy to be involved in a conversation like that, because I think what most people don't see is that essentially hardly ever happens. And typically when it does, there's an incredibly serious risk involved. I think that those who are anti-choice have perpetuated a belief that women are doing that with a level of cavalier, and it's just nothing I've ever seen. I think another thing that we can do is there are many people traveling from Idaho who need spaces to stay, and they need financial assistance. And so I'd be happy to be part of a group that helped coordinate and organize that.
We're supporting Planned Parenthood today, but we can put into our thoughts and our planning financially to support them on an ongoing basis.
Hi, so my name is Devin, and I want to share my story with you because I had an abortion and I would not be alive today if that hadn't happened. At the time, we called it a D&C. So 6.5 years ago, I became pregnant with a very wanted pregnancy. And a couple months later, we figured out that it wasn't viable. And within a few days, we realized it's what's called a molar pregnancy. So I need you to know there was never any baby. The sperm, normal sperm, fertilized an egg that didn't have DNA, which happens sometimes. And so all the bells and whistles went off for the cells that create the placenta. And so I got to talk to my doctor, who said, I've cleared my schedule. This is a doctor who normally would say, why don't you book now? Because I'm probably not going to be available for the next 2 months. So I got to experience what urgency looks like in medical care. And they said, we need to do this now when everyone's hands are on deck, because we might end up doing a blood transfusion. If that doesn't work, we might have to do 2 blood transfusions today. We don't know what's going on due to the vascular nature of your uterus and the unknown nature of this thing that's going on. And then they said, we might have to remove your uterus today. And I looked at my husband and I said, we're really good at little things, and we're about to get better. And they put me under, so it's not normal for this procedure. And they put me under, and we didn't know if it was going to be 45 minutes or 6 hours. And we came out on the other side. I'm happy to say we didn't need a blood transfusion. I still had my uterus intact, so that was really wonderful. And I got to see what the immediacy and the urgency of medical care can look like. And then they started monitoring me. I went through a little postpartum depression. Didn't need a baby to get through that part. I had some great medical care. I had great mental health care. And then they realized that the cells hadn't completely gone away, and I had to go through 8 weeks of chemotherapy on a drug called methotrexate, that because it can cause abortions, which can help clear ectopic pregnancies or molar pregnancies like mine. It also is a drug that's used in just for those kinds of abortions, so those non-viable pregnancies. So that drug is not available in many states anymore. So I went through what I call my faux chemo and my faux, because it was just 2 months, and it was terrible. And at the same time, we were able to deal with the precancerous condition that pregnancy had caused, and I didn't get cancer. And now I have 2 beautiful sons, and all of those things were very wanted. And this is the kind of healthcare that most women don't have right now. So thank you for listening. I didn't know that was going to happen.
I think we all need a moment of silence and gratitude and hope and love for the woman who just spoke. It's just wonderful. And I'm talking about a very other different topic, but I read somewhere that perhaps there is a pill for men to take to become like the women's birth control. And if that is such a thing, or if it's possible, maybe we could promote that greatly.
I think we need to recognize that just because abortion becomes or is illegal doesn't mean it's going to stop. In 1968, when it was very illegal, I lived with 4 women. All 4 had abortions. One by a pharmaceutical student at her college, one on the south side of Chicago. One had a mother that was willing to fly her to Paris. So I think we need to recognize that just because something is illegal doesn't mean it's going to go away.
Hi, I'm Charles Scammahorn. In 1961 in Berkeley at the Unitarian Church there, I'm as close as, I'm my teeth are touching. In 1961, I was at the Unitarian Church in Berkeley, where I lived for 50 years, and the discussion came up with artificial insemination. And this was literally at our church. And I knew that I was as healthy as people get. I'd been a pilot in the Air Force, and therefore I passed all of those kind of things. Anyway, I volunteered to help women who truly wanted a child to get pregnant. So I gave sperm to a sperm bank. Okay, I always felt a little bit strange about doing that, and yet I turned 87 yesterday. My blood pressure is 115/55. That's about as good as it can possibly get. In other words, it was a good decision on my part, and I guess I should feel happy about it. Anyway.
From Zoom, Carol Storm writes, making a place for women to stay while needing reproductive health care is where I hope our congregation can contribute.
I guess my name's Erica. I'm piggybacking on some of the ideas that have come up because I want to amplify them. I feel like the experience in the abortion arena, like the gentleman in the front sort of implied, that as a man, especially in earlier generations, I think that often, I can't speak for them, I guess I'm thinking that it's possible that in general, that's a common feeling, that they didn't really have a seat at that table. And I'd like to encourage the congregation to expand the conversation and deliberately include men that maybe wouldn't feel, men or women that maybe wouldn't have felt comfortable conversing about it. And then I'd also like to highlight and amplify what I'm hearing in the realm of some of these stories, which is that there's a lot of privilege in the arena of being able to access abortion. And, as you said, you really experienced a lot of those privileges. And I want everyone to sort of think, as we're sitting here in our beautiful building in Bend, Oregon, what kind of privilege we have here, both from a gender perspective, a racial perspective, whatever it is, but that marginalized communities are really hit much harder.
I just like to say that I think there's an additional social justice issue here, that in the discussion of Roe versus Wade and its overturning, the issue of separation of church and state didn't come up. And I am assuming that, and I take a magazine called Separation of Church and State that's been going on for some time, but I'm assuming that they'll find a case that will be brought to the Supreme Court soon, because there are so many Christians, not conservative Christians, who believe that abortions are okay for all the reasons we've been discussing. Most Jews believe abortion's okay. Most Hindus believe abortion's okay. There's a huge issue of separation of church and state in the overthrow of Roe versus Wade. And I would like to see our congregation be on the alert for that, look for that, and when a case comes up, support it in any way we can, because I believe that this can be changed. But those of us need to stay together to change this. I would also like to say that I think the Supreme Court decision was so divisive that it really added to the separation of church and, of blue and red states. And we're at a point where we cannot add anything to that. It's becoming dangerous to add anything more to that. So I would like the Social Justice Committee and anybody else in this congregation be on top of this, and as soon as we can, support a case to overthrow the Dobbs case. Thank you.
I just wanted to say I'm going to practice saying people who can get pregnant and chest feeding and all that stuff. But it's going to take me some practice.
For 20 years, the United States invested in a war in Afghanistan against the Taliban, an organization that was against all manner of human rights, especially women's rights. And then for everyone to come home and find out that politicians and people with Taliban theology are in charge of human rights and women's rights in the United States is abominable.
I just wanted to highlight another, in some ways in Oregon, we are privileged, as somebody has mentioned. We live in a state where reproductive rights are supported. I can't help but continue to think of a moment early on in my career as a physician. I actually met a colleague. She was a Black woman, and this is during a time when Roe was legal. Lived in a state where, even though it was legal, as we think about food deserts, access for her was still pretty difficult. And she ended up having to carry through a pregnancy that was due to a rape. And when I met her, a phenomenal woman. Here she was a physician, single parent of a daughter who she had birthed through rape. And the complicated pain in that relationship that she had with the 17-year-old daughter at the time, for both of them, was just heart-wrenching. All that to say is that I think we have to also think about how do we be mindful, even in states where abortion access is legal, how do we expand the services so that people who can't travel very far, even though they're living in a state where they can have access, what does access really look like? Because access should look like they should be able to get there without many barriers. We know that this is a huge challenge in states where they don't have that and they have to travel very far. But I think even in this state, it's not a small state. when we actually look at where access is, I think there is a lot more work to be done.
I want to just raise a topic that I didn't realize at the March for Choice that happened with the downfall of abortion rights. There was a indigenous person speaking there who raised the issue that even in Oregon, where abortion is still a right, for those families that live on the reservation land or receive federal health care, abortion is not covered. And so for most of us who are not, of childbearing years who are not on federal health care, we don't even think about, I'd never even thought of that. And so I think access is much broader than we realize, since there's huge swaths of people who do not have covered access, and many of them are in poverty or low income or even middle income, but without the funds or resources to get where they need to go.
My name is Elka, and I've only been to one of these services here in Bend. This is my second time. And I want to reiterate that the issues of privilege and safe spaces for people who have experienced abortions or been close to people who have experienced abortions, and there are a lot of relationships. But I want to tell you a little bit about myself. It may not be very linear and organized, but I want you to know how complicated it sometimes can be. I was adopted at birth. My mother, in 1967. My mother became pregnant as a 19-year-old. So she wasn't, too young. She came from a very average, okay family, but abortion was illegal at the time. And the only way that she could relay her experience was through lies and deception. Her family shamed her and sent her away for the duration of her pregnancy and birth. Told the rest of their friends and family that she had transferred colleges. She chose to tell people that she was raped. I have since met her and my biological father, and know that there's different ways of looking at things, but in today's situation, there probably would have been ways for her to keep her pregnancy. She and her family did try to find her an abortion. They knew a doctor in Mexico. But I think what happened was she was too far along in her pregnancy to obtain that abortion. So I was adopted at birth. I myself have had an abortion, and I am very grateful that I had the privilege to do so. But I want to tell people that adoption is not always the best answer, or it may be the best answer in a complicated situation, but it doesn't mean that it's full of joy and rejoicing, that family relationships are very complicated and can also hold much pain. So I don't know whether I would have been better off with my birth family or my adoptive family. There's a lot of facets. I am grateful for much of the privilege that I have in being alive today, and I know that the spirit that resides in me was determined to be here on this plane at this time and would have found another way of getting here. But I want everyone to think about the privilege and complications of the things that we're talking about. I also want to say that I have a wonderful relationship with my biological father, and he was completely blown away that I existed. And now he's almost 78 years old, and he's thrilled to have a third daughter who he didn't know anything about.
Yeah, thank you so much, everyone, for sharing your reflections and contributing to this discussion, which I'm sure will continue to be a discussion, as is the history of our faith, and will continue to be the history of our faith.
Yes, thanks everyone for your sharing. This is a challenge. It is a road ahead. And in doing that, we have each other as resources for that journey. We're going to end by singing Bill Withers' Lean on Me. We used the original lyrics on the screen, but we invite you, when you see the word brother, to say brother. You can say sister, you can say sibling, whatever it is, whatever gender you would like to identify in that moment, please feel free to do just that. And I would like for us all maybe to practice this idea. Joanne lifted it up for us in the back, that it takes practice to change language sometimes. So we are seeking reproductive rights for people who can experience pregnancy. I want you to rise, embody your spirit, clap, sway, move, dance, get your groove on, whatever it is you'd like to do.
Sometimes in our lives, we all have pain, we all have sorrow, but if we are wise, we know that there's always tomorrow. When you're not strong, and I'll be your friend, I'll help you carry on, for it won't be long till I'm gonna need somebody to lean on. Please swallow your pride if I have things you need to borrow. Sister, if you need a hand, we all need somebody to lean on. I just might have a problem that you'll understand. We all need somebody to lean on. If there is a load you have to bear that you can't carry, I'm right up the road. I'll share your load if you just call me. Just call on me, sister, when you need her. Will you carry on? It won't be long till I'm gonna need somebody to lean on. On me, sister, when you need a hand. We all need somebody to lean on. I just might have a problem that you'd understand. We all need somebody to lean on. Oh, they're switching. Down again. When you're not strong, and I'll be your friend, I'll help you carry on, for it won't be long till I'm gonna need somebody to lean on. That'll work. That'll work. close with words from Dag Hammarskjöld. Each morning we must hold out the chalice of our being to receive, to carry, and to give back. And we extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
Join in the unison reading of our covenant. Love is the spirit of this fellowship, and service is its law. This is our covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. Happy Sunday. Feel like saying you're dismissed.